So we're going to basically start pricing everything in Bitcoin, which is very feasible. Hyper-Bitcoinization is basically when, Bitcoin, instead of me saying, hey, how many dollars is this? I want this is going to be this many dollars for a boat or a plane or whatever, or a trip. Instead, people are going to ask how many Bitcoin is it or how many Satoshis, which is a fraction of Bitcoin. So we're going to basically start pricing everything in Bitcoin, which is very feasible. So, because of what's happening with the dollar and the debt crisis in America, it's very high potential that we end up with basically a global Bitcoin standard. So when that happens in Africa, and I really want to actually the next one, which I like better, right? If Africa doesn't catch up with this trend and global Africa, economic marginalization, right? Because not only one generation back in financial technology, that puts us 2 generations back. Because while we're still trying to get onto the old banking system, the rest of the world has moved on to a digital asset system. God forbid that happen. But that would be a big thing if it didn't jump on the bandwagon of hyper-Bitcoinization or get ahead of it, right? Because again, if you look at the value of a Bitcoin, if you were holding a Bitcoin, you were fortunate enough to do so for the last 8 years, you went from like $1,000 Bitcoin to basically now $100,000 Bitcoin, right? And I expect we're going to add another zero in the next 4 years or less. So big wealth gap is going to widen here. Hope that we have the other scenario here where we have opportunities for growth, right? Financial inclusion, if we get ahead of this as, global Africa, financial inclusion is going to be, a good opportunity for us. So cheap, so easy to send funds back and forth. Inflation hedge, meaning that even if I'm sitting in Nigeria, I'm in Zimbabwe, I'm wherever I am, I don't have to worry about my currency going down in value. All I have to do is just make sure that I'm holding the Bitcoin, right? So not missing out on hyper-Bitcoinization is really key, I think, for the future for global Africa. And in fact, we have the opportunity to leapfrog because whether you're on the African continent, you don't have full access to banking, or you're even like in the US or elsewhere, and they have redlining, where you have a lot of, African American communities that don't actually have full. So jumping directly to this and leapfrogging ahead into Bitcoin makes a lot of sense for our communities.